Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Justin here as always. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me for another video. I got some recommendations for you today. I got this random stray dog that I just found looking for scraps outside of my house, and I brought him in, so I hope he didn't have rabies or anything. Do you have rabies? You do? Okay, well that's a concern. Anyway, so I wanted to have a fun, casual video today where I just kind of pulled some of my favorite hidden gems, lesser known horror movies that don't get talked about a lot, pull them off the shelves, and just talk about them to you guys. For some of you, this may be the first time you're ever hearing about these movies, so if I'm helping you discover them, that's super rad. If some of you maybe have heard of these movies, but you haven't checked them out, hopefully this is a push for you to check them out, because these are all really, really fun movies and some of my favorites. These are all coming from the mid-90s, which is one of my favorite eras for horror. I got a couple horror comedies. I have a couple of serious kind of thriller dramas, and then a kind of an experimental film that I'm kind of taking a swing with, but I like it and I think you guys will too. But so we're gonna kick it off with one of my all-time favorites, but a movie that I feel like doesn't get enough love. It doesn't get talked about as much as its two predecessors.
Jesus Christ, am I really dead? Oh God, I feel so goddamn hungry.
Julie.
You brought me back. You should have just left me dead.
And that is Return of the Living Dead 3. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with the Return of the Living Dead franchise. The first three, in my opinion, are really the core of the series. In fact, Christian Henahor, CHH, over there on Planet CHH, just did a couple videos talking about the fourth and fifth installments of this series, Necropolis and Rave to the Grave, which are, I don't know, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But the end of the what I call the official Return of the Living Dead trilogy was Return of the Living Dead 3, and it really takes everything in a different direction. Instead of just repeating what they had done in the first and second movies, which the second one kind of just repeated what happened in the first movie, but that's another story for another day. But I still love them both. They're still so fucking great. But this one tells the story of Kurt and Julie, this young couple. They're in love. They're out on a motorcycle ride one night, and there's an accident, and Julie bashes her head on a telephone pole, and she's dead on scene. She is DOA after this motorcycle accident, and Kurt, her boyfriend, takes her to her dad's government agency facility where they are actually using the trioxin chemical that brings people to life. He brings his girlfriend there because he can't stand to see her dead, so he wants to use the trioxin chemical to bring her back to life, and hopefully it brings her back in the way that he remembered. But as you can probably predict, that things don't quite go as planned. But this movie has a lot of heart. It has all the things you love about great zombie movies with practical effects and gore, but it also has great performances, and at the core of this movie is a love story. It is a love story between Kurt and Julie. Melinda Clarke is particularly charming in this movie. She's beautiful, and she just portrays this character with a lot of soul, because you gotta think, you know, it really taps into the emotional aspects of, honestly, what it would be to be turned into a goddamn zombie. I mean, you're not yourself anymore. You're dying. You're physically actually rotting, and how sad that would be for yourself and the people around you, you know, watching you come back, but just not quite as yourself. It really examines that and explores that in an interesting way. And of course, also it's just a cheesy 90s zombie movie. But the iconic Melinda Clarke as Julie it's just a great movie. You gotta see it. Check out Return of the Living Dead 3. It was directed by Brian Usna of Reanimator and Society and all kinds of other amazing shit. Check it out. It's great. Next up is one that might not be for everybody, but if you are into really goofy, silly 90s horror comedies, I think this one might be up your alley, and that is...
What are you talking about? Michael!
Michael's brain is inside of the dinosaur.
Tammy and the T-Rex, the infamous Tammy and the T-Rex. Now, the one I hold in my hands is the gore cut. Originally, this movie was released as a more family-friendly film where they took the original footage that was meant to be kind of a gory horror comedy. They removed all the gore, and it was initially released as a family-friendly movie, stripped of all the bloody, blood and guts aspects of the movie. But this new version that you can watch now has all of that gore, and it's an absolute blast. An evil scientist implants the brain of Michael, a murdered high school student, into a Tyrannosaurus Rex. He escapes, wreaks vengeance on his high school tormentors, and is reunited with his high school sweetheart, Tammy. This movie was directed by Stuart Raffle, who also gave us cinematic gems like Mac and Me and Mannequin 2 on the Move. Mannequin 2 on the Move is one of my favorite 90s comedies, by the way. But he has a very unique style. It's very silly, very slapstick. It's absolutely ridiculous, but god damn it if it isn't just a fun time at the movies. This movie is so much fun. It's completely ridiculous. It's not a good movie by any means, but it's just a lot of fun. So if you have yet to see Tammy and the T-Rex, I highly recommend checking it out just for the spectacle of it all. Denise Richards, Paul Walker, and it's just ridiculous. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. Next up is a hidden gem that I don't hear a lot of people talk about. I actually just talked about this movie on the Killer Kids stream that we did on Sledgehammer Horror's channel, where we talked about our favorite kids in horror, and this movie came up. In fact, all of us put this movie on our list of the best killer kids in horror movies.
If I let you go, you think you could fly? What if there was this boy and he did these terrible things because he liked doing them? Such a sweet little thing. It'd be too bad if something were to happen to her.
And that is Macaulay Culkin playing the good son. He plays Henry in this movie, this murderous, evil, like kind of bad seed-esque kid. This is one of the first projects that Macaulay Culkin did after Home Alone. It also stars Elijah Wood. A young boy stays with his aunt and uncle and becomes friends with his cousin, a boy of the same age who shows increasing signs of violent and psychopathic behavior. Henry, Macaulay Culkin's character, has this front with his parents where they think he's this golden child and such a good kid, but at his heart, he's just a soulless sociopath who gains immense pleasure from tormenting and possibly even murdering people. And this movie just goes absolutely off the rails. It really hinges on these performances from Elijah Wood and Macaulay Culkin. Macaulay Culkin, although we didn't ever play many bad guys, he played somewhat of a bad guy, I guess, in Party Monster, but it's a really silly movie. But Macaulay Culkin as a 10 or 11-year-old kid playing an evil, evil bastard. This movie is worth checking out just to see Macaulay Culkin play this horrifically violent, psychopathic kid tormenting Elijah Wood and others throughout this movie. This movie was directed by Joseph Rubin, who also directed Sleeping with the Enemy, The Stepfather, and a movie called Dreamscape, which is a lot of fun too. But if you have not seen The Good Son, check it out. It's definitely a time capsule and a wild performance from Macaulay Culkin. Check it out. Next up, actually, you know what? I'm going to do this one last, because if there's any one of these movies that I'm going to lose focus on, it's that one. So I'll put that one towards the end. This next one was actually a blind buy from Vinegar Syndrome. I had never heard of this movie. I had never seen it, but after watching it, it instantly became one of my favorite movies that I had seen in recent years, and that is 1980's Fade to Black.
Hey, how did you know that? It's great.
I go to a lot of movies. It's my thing.
Dennis Christopher stars as Eric Binford, a shy, lonely film buff, embarks on a killing spree against those who browbeat and betray him, all the while stalking his idol, a Marilyn Monroe lookalike. When I was watching this movie, I found myself really drawn to and sort of feeling a connection and really sympathizing with the main character, Eric Binford. Not the murdering people side, but he's just this super introverted, shy film buff. He's just obsessed with movies. He works in this movie distribution warehouse. He's like a courier, so he takes all these 35mm prints and film paraphernalia and posters and runs them all over town to different movie theaters. This was before you could just have everything at your fingertips on a streaming service, but there's so much movie stuff in this movie. He watches movies constantly. He works at this movie warehouse, but at the same time, he's treated like absolute dog shit by his mom, by the people who he works with. He can't get a girl, and he slowly starts to unravel. But what makes this movie unique is it's played so sympathetically by Dennis Christopher because you really feel for him. He's not a cartoonish psychopath. He's a guy that really just kind of hits his wit's end from people treating him like shit and eventually goes on this rampage. But he doesn't just go and kill people. He basically, since he's so immersed in the movies that he loves, he portrays different characters for each of these different people that he murders. And there's a couple of really creepy scenes as these personas take him over as he goes on his murderous rampage. And it's just such an interesting movie and a hidden gem that I had never heard of, like I said, until I saw it. So I imagine a lot of people haven't seen this one either. But Fade to Black from 1980. It's really, really a good movie. Not like a schlocky B movie like a lot of the stuff that I do like, but this is a well-crafted, well-written character study that I think you guys will really dig. That's 1980's Fade to Black. Now this is the final one on the list, and this is where I might lose some of you, but this one's definitely not going to be for everybody because it's super kind of experimental and weird. This was also directed by Philip Ridley. He's a really talented director who did another movie called Reflecting Skin, which is another one you guys should check out.
Can I do anything?
I'm just trying to sort something out, and when I've sorted it out, I'll be all right again.
The setup for the movie is Brendan Fraser plays Darkly Noon, who was a member, a child of parents who were in this insane Christian religious cult, and some shit goes down at this cult, and he ends up wandering kind of like in a haze out of this situation that happened to his family and this whole cult, and he ends up wandering through the woods and stumbles upon Ashley Judd's character, and he's obviously injured and he doesn't know what the fuck's going on, and Ashley Judd brings him back to the house that she shares with Viggo Mortensen character, who is mute. He can't speak. But they're really in love. They have this great relationship, but she still wants to help out Brendan Fraser because she knows that he's obviously grown up in a fucked up situation, and he starts staying with them. And over the course of the next, I'm not sure how long the span of time is, but the next few days or few weeks, Brendan Fraser's character becomes increasingly obsessed with Ashley Judd's character, and he's also just all fucked up because he spent his whole life in this religious cult. And the movie only stars really 3 people. The story takes place between Brendan Fraser, Ashley Judd, and Viggo Mortensen, and them dealing with Brendan Fraser slowly losing his shit, and it just ends up in this really insane climax. You've probably never ever seen Brendan Fraser in a role like this. He's really, really good. I've long been a huge fan of Brendan Fraser. I've been rooting for the guy, and I've been saying for years and years and years that he will win an Oscar. I had said it for years. I need to make a standalone video about it because he finally got this project with Brendan. I'm going on a little tangent here, but Brendan Fraser finally got a role that I think might do it in Darren Aronofsky's new movie, The Whale. So I'm really rooting for him, but his performance is amazing. This movie is just super weird. I remember stumbling upon this late night on HBO, and I never forgot about it. And then years later, I couldn't believe Arrow released this fancy edition of it with slipcover, a restoration, tons of bonus features. I was shocked that a movie that most likely many people have never heard of ended up getting a release like this. So do check that one out. It's very weird, it's experimental, but it's so well directed, and it just goes some crazy places. And to see Ashley Judd, Brendan Fraser, and Viggo Mortensen perform together, great cast, and it's just a really interesting movie. So I highly encourage you guys to check that one out. That's The Passion of Darkly Noon. So guys, that is it. That is 5 lesser known movies. I won't say hidden gems because these aren't exactly hidden. A lot of you have probably heard of these, but they're definitely lesser talked about movies. So guys, thanks for stopping by and checking out my video. Definitely check out my main channel, Movie Watch Daily, always keeping active over there as well. So thanks for stopping by, guys. Stay weird. Remember to always be yourself, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.